Hello, I'm Henrik Christesen from Hans Christian Andersen Children's Hospital in Odense University Hospital, Denmark. I'd like to talk about glycogen storage disease 9A in children with ketotic hypoglycemia. In 2020, we published a paper where we introduced a new concept, ketotic hypoglycemia only GSD 9A, or glycogen storage disease 9A. This means that some people with glycogen storage disease 9A does not have enlarged liver and liver affection biochemically due to increased stores of glycogen, that is glucose stores in the liver. The liver is completely normal by ultrasound and biochemistry, but the child has ketotic hypoglycemia. This was not really known before, that children can have a gene mutation in PHKA2, which is the gene responsible for GSD 9A. We identified 20 children in 8 families who did not have glycogen storage disease, by definition of enlarged liver, but only ketotic hypoglycemia. That's why we named it KH only GSD 9A. And it has become clear that this condition is pretty common in ketotic hypoglycemia. And this is an important discovery. Firstly, a diagnosis of KH only GSD 9A is important for the child, because the genetics supports the diagnosis of a pathological condition which is not physiological, which is more than normal variation, and which is not always self-limiting with increasing age. The severity in KH GSD 9A may, however, be different in also with the same mutation in the same family. Some do not have or only have very mild symptoms, and some have pretty severe ketotic hypoglycemia, still not enlarged liver, also not by follow-up. And some have milder symptoms even up to adulthood, even though the disease tends to become milder with age. Secondly, a diagnosis of a mutation in GSD 9A is important for the families, because the mutation is most frequently inherited in an X-linked pattern. Secondly, a diagnosis of GSD 9A in ketotic hypoglycemia is important for the families. This is because the mutation is most often inherited from an adult. If the mutation is situated on the X chromosome, this means that if a boy has the mutation, he has inherited from the father. If a girl has mutation, it can both be inherited from the father or from the mother. Typically, the disease is more pronounced in boys because there's only one X chromosome in boys, and this will be affected. In the girl, there will be 2 X chromosomes with only one affected chromosome with a mutation. And if you identify this X-linked mutation, then you can go to other family members, brothers, sisters, cousins, the adults, and see whether these family members also have a mutation. And this has been fruitful in many of those who have been identified with GSD 9A. More recent examples from our clinic includes a family from one of the smaller islands of Denmark. In this family, we identified a 2-year-old boy with pathological ketotic hypoglycemia. He needed treatment not only with frequent diet and uncooked cornstarch, but also a gastric tube with continuous feeding with maltose overnight. The family history revealed that he had a cousin that perhaps also had a similar or the same disease. This led us to do genetic family investigations, and it was revealed that also the cousin had the PHKA2 mutation, and both cousins' mothers were twin sisters and had the mutation. This led to further identification of 3 more children with actually severe ketotic hypoglycemia. And once treated, they got a better life, simply to say. So identifying GSD9A mutations in ketotic hypoglycemia is important not only for the child, but also for family members, which now can be detected and treated. In another recent family, a diagnosis of KH-only GSD9A was important not only to support the diagnosis of pathological ketotic hypoglycemia, but also to convince the local hospital that here was a family who had a need of emergency treatment when things got wrong, and to the authorities that this family needed help with economic support for continuous glucose monitoring and devices for blood glucose monitoring. Also, that the daycare was informed about the disease and took it serious. So a genetic diagnosis can help families and children with ketotic hypoglycemia. And this is not to say that those who do not get a genetic diagnosis should not be taken serious, but it is often helpful to convince others that this is really a disease to take as important. Thank you.